Let's make some lists, starting at the top and going to the bottom, baby. The top and bottom list with Lance and Andy. Let's make some lists, starting at the top and going to the bottom, baby. The top and bottom list with Lance and Andy.
Whoa, we made it like 9 episodes, I think.
Yes.
So nobody
They said it couldn't be done. Yes, our friends and family.
They said it shouldn't be done.
Oh,
that's what they said. I think you messed up there.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So, but actually today our topic is baseball nicknames, and this is going to be more in Andy's wheelhouse than mine. I mean, I do like baseball. I know baseball, but have you been to all the ballparks yet?
There's 3 ballparks I haven't been to yet, but I'll do them all by the summer.
Oh, what are those?
I'm going to Detroit in April. I'm going to go to Cincinnati in June, and then Chicago White Sox in July. I've been to the Cubs, but not the White Sox.
I've been to, quite a few baseball parks, but a lot of them aren't even in existence anymore. Old Yankee Stadium, Old Busch Stadium, Astrodome.
Yep.
You know, I've been to Wrigley Field and I've been to Minute Maid also, but.
Yeah, I'm trying to do all the Major League teams ballparks, so some have changed since I've been there, but I have to go back.
Yeah, so you're obviously a big Phillies fan. That's your team, and you know why the Phillies? What's your relationship with them? Because you got Phillies gear all over.
Yeah, I do. Well, we grew up in Pennsylvania. So my relatives are from, so most of my family are Phillies fans, except for my dad, ironically, who's a Yankees fan. But Phillies are his second favorite team, hopefully. Yeah, but even though it's my wheelhouse, baseball, I'm a fan of baseball, but nicknames is a unique thing where we both kind of Googled this because we both kind of routed off some nicknames of players, but you know, the internet really showed some odd ones that we were unaware of.
Well, and baseball's so old. I mean, as a sport, there's no way we know nicknames from the 1800 or probably much before our lifetime, except for the really big players. But I want to mention my favorite team too.
Yes,
I got a favorite team.
You have a favorite team?
Who's
that?
Saints, the New Orleans. Oh wait, no, my favorite team are the Cubs.
The Chicago Cubs.
The Chicago Cubs, and you might wonder why would somebody from South Louisiana, have the Cubs as their favorite team, but there is a story behind that.
I know the answer, but tell our audience.
Well, in New Orleans, we didn't have a team. We had the Pelicans, that was before I was ever born, and we had the Zephyrs as a minor league team. But growing up, we had 2 stations that played Major League Baseball teams on there that we could watch, TBS out of Atlanta and WGN out of Chicago. So we had a choice, the Cubs or the Braves. And if you know anything about me, you know that I hate everything Atlanta, so I could never be in Atlanta. And a lot of people in New Orleans have the same feeling as me. So New Orleans is a big Cubs town because of those WGN days and watching Ryan Sandberg, Dawson Dunston, listening to Harry Carey, Mitch
I watched those games a lot
Williams
too.
And Greg Maddux. They didn't have great teams, but they had really great players. It's a thing.
We could probably name every position player in those Cubs back then because they said they were on TV, and I watched them a lot.
I know. I probably can too. Name every single one of them, and Harry Carey doing radio and television. He'd come back after in the 7th inning, he'd come back drunk back to TV or whatever. Yeah. So that's my story with that. But yeah, as you're saying, nicknames, it's entertaining. More entertaining than just saying our favorite players. Yeah, I think because I did a lot of research, and there's a lot of cool things I learned about players.
Yeah, it seems like almost every player has a nickname. Like someone somewhere gave a player a nickname, especially like you said in, the pre-1900s, early 1900s. Like they just gave players names, for whatever they did.
Seems like more so than any other sport.
Like even like
baseball.
Like some of the teams' names come from like Red Sox and White Sox because they wore Red Sox or they had White Sox.
Some of these names aren't really creative, but there are some that are like, how'd they get that? I looked at it, I was like, I had no idea.
I gotta say, my top 5 player names is solid. It's a solid list. My bottom 3 are kind of silly. They're probably not the worst ones out there.
Well, and I'd say on my top, I tried to stay with players that people would know. Or at least people that like baseball would know. I didn't really go with any really rare names.
No, my top 5 players, they're all like in the Hall of Fame except for one who should be.
I'm not sure if all mine are, but you can let me know as we go through them if you
right.
think they're in the Hall of Fame or not. There's not going to be a lot of clips because we're not talking about media or songs that have these things. I'll throw some things in there, but we did make a song, the Top and Bottom List podcast. I made it along with my musical talent, Ellen Iverson.
Yes.
Again, I wrote the lyrics and made the video, but AI helped me with the music part of it. And we'll play that between the top and the bottom on this show just to make sure you listen for that. And that will be set up separately on YouTube and other other places. So look for that. But I think are you ready to get into this?
Yes, let's start.
Let's start from the top.
Let's start from the top, from the top, from the top, from the top. Let's start from the top, from the top. Let's start from the top, from the top, from the top, from the top.
So this week I'm going to start it from the top. And starting it from the top, my number 5 is called the Mad Dog, or he's called the Professor.
Greg Maddux?
Greg Maddux, Greg Mad Dog Maddux, or Greg the Professor Maddux. And I guess I didn't call them those at the same time because they're really different from each other when you think about those personalities. But the reason he's called Mad Dog is because when he picked up that baseball and went onto the pitcher's mound, he was killer. You know, he was very competitive. He hated to lose. I'm sure a lot of them hated to lose, but from when I was reading, he was next level hated to lose. So when he got up there, he was the Mad Dog and really went after everybody and it was mean. So, but that's enough on Mad Dog. But why was he called the Professor? You know why?
Yeah, like he wasn't a dominant pitcher with his speed and fastballs, but he was good at paying the corners and really studying the game and studying the opposing players and kind of knowing their weaknesses.
Yeah, and that's what I was reading. And I knew a lot of this already about him, but of course I want to research to make sure I'm right and to find out more about him. And with that, they were saying that when he wasn't on the hill, in the dugouts or in real life, he was relaxed, calm. He reflects on the games that he played and pitching performances he had. But even more than that, he studies the other players. He studies batters, and he gets into their habits. And what he had over other ones is his excellent memory, because he would remember everything he studied on these players, and he was skilled in outthinking the batter. That he'd mess with their heads, but he knew exactly what pitches he could get away with and what pitches they couldn't hit well or they always strike on. So him having the control like no other person in our lifetime I saw, and his breaking balls, regardless if it's a curveball or break whatever, sliders, whatever it was, he had all these pitches, but they all looked the same when he threw it, because batters can usually see by the way that he's holding the ball or with something that gives away the pitch he's doing, and he hit all those so well. But so he recalled how the hitters, hit in the past. He knew their weaknesses. He fed off of those shortcomings, and so he used that against them. And there's a really cool story that I saw in a video as I was researching this, and it was a catcher. I forget which team it was he was playing for at the time, but he told the catcher before the game, this one batter on the other team who's an exceptional batter, if you go inside on him, he's going to take it out. He's going to hit it. It's going to be line drive. It's going to be out of the park. And so when that batter got up to bat, the catcher's obviously calling not an inside pitch. But Greg Maddux waves him off because he gets to choose his pitches, and he called for the inside pitch, and so the catcher lets him throw the inside pitch, and the guy takes it out the park. After the game, he goes to Greg Maddux, like, "You told me that if we take him inside, he's going to take it out the park, and that's exactly what he did. Why'd you do that?" And Greg Maddux retorts and says, "Well, we're going to play them probably in the playoffs. This is a playoff team, and so when we play him in the playoffs, he's going to remember that. And he's going to expect some things from me." And sure enough, they met him in the playoffs, and Greg Maddux owned that dude in the playoffs. So he gave up a home run in an earlier game that didn't mean as much, so that in the playoffs, this guy would bite on his other stuff.
Yep, I remember hearing that story too in a reel recently in the past few months.
And that's next level stuff. I mean, I think, because I've never heard of pitchers doing that stuff before. So, but also another thing that made him professorial was when he wasn't on the mound. I already said, he was calm, relaxed, but he talked baseball with the other baseball players, but they wouldn't talk. They'd listen, because whenever he's talking about the game and talking about what he's noticing, and all the other players would gather around him and listen, because, they were learning from one of the best players ever, and they respected him, and he just had a knowledge next level. I mean, his dad was involved with pitching. His brother, I think, pitched in the major leagues and is a pitching coach. So it comes from his upbringing that I think from a little kid he knew, pitching and how to do all these things.
Yeah, and he and I have similar nicknames. They call me Roving Professor. So it's kind of like him. We have a lot in common, me and Greg Maddux.
So that means Roving Professor, that means you played left field and you just ran around because you didn't get as many hits?
Just roved around, yeah.
Yeah, they usually put the worst player in left field, is that it?
Right field.
Right field, okay, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that's where you played. You were the roving fielder.
Roving fielder.
No, I actually don't know if Andy's any good at baseball. We've never played baseball, but
no.
But anyway, that was my number 5. What's your number 5?
Good choice and good player. and also in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
My number 5 got in the Hall of Fame in 2023. Not the first ballot, so it came a little later. Maybe the people didn't choose him. Anyway, played for 6 Major League teams from 1986 to 2004, most notably the Toronto Blue Jays. He was drafted by the Yankees, but they traded the Blue Jays for Dale Murray and Tom Dodd, and not Dale Murphy. So it's one of the worst trades the Yankees made. I'm just getting it out there. 5-time All-Star, World Series champ with the 95 Braves, inducted in the Hall of Fame. His name was Frederick Stanley McGriff, otherwise known as Fred McGriff, who Chris Berman, the famous ESPN broadcaster, called him McGruff, the crime dog. Fred the crime dog McGriff.
Yeah.
So that's his name.
After McGruff, the crime dog,
Yes.
the one who fights drugs and stuff.
I guess that's still known today by our young audience, but yes.
I think McGruff is still a character, and I think they're when they go out in the public, I've seen McGruff costumes out there still, where somebody's wearing a McGruff costume talking to kids.
All right.
So no, McGruff, I think is relatable still.
Yeah, so McGruff was a cartoon crime dog from the 80s and 90s, and his thing was, take a bite out of crime. And so anyway, McGruff the crime dog, Fred McGriff. So Chris Berman was known for giving players names, just called him the crime dog for McGriff.
So it's a cool nickname. It had really nothing to do with the way that he played as Maddox or studied the game. It was just because McGriff and McGruff sound.
Yeah, and I guess I liked it, over number 5, just because it is a silly name.
It's unique.
And it's definitely unique. Yeah, there's not many other crime dogs out there in Major League Baseball. But anyway, that's my 5. Fred McGriff, the crime dog.
Okay, we're going to go to my number 4. And my number 4 got his nickname because he is really terrible at remembering people's names. And so whenever he met somebody or somebody he even knew, he'd just say, hey. And so because, he always told people, hey, and never announced anybody by their name, he became known as the Say Hey Kid. That's Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid, who is also in the Hall of Fame and one of the greatest players ever. So he got that name from a reporter for the New York Journal American who noticed that he's always saying, hey, and Willie Mays admitted later he says that because he can't remember people's names. So
yeah, and definitely Willie Mays is like a top 5 ball player of all time.
Yeah.
Usually knows lists. Usually he's there with Babe Ruth.
And he has a bunch of other nicknames, but the Say Hey Kid's the one that stuck with him. And he had a charitable foundation named the Say Hey Foundation. But he's also known as Willie the Wonder, the Amazing Mays, the Minneapolis Marvel. And teammates just called him Buck or Cap because he was captain of the team, being the best player on the team and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but he was around for a while. He started in the Negro Leagues. He played for the Birmingham Barons, but the Birmingham Black Barons, which I guess they took the black out by the time Michael Jordan got there. Yeah. So, and Michael Jordan's not on this list. I don't know what his nickname would have been. I
wonder. He probably has one.
I'm sure it wasn't a good one.
Yep.
Can't hit the curve, Jordan, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then he went on to play for New York, the New York/San Francisco Giants, and also he played for the Mets and was an All-Star 24 times. But I like it also because it's unique, and it has nothing to do with the way he played the game. It has to do with that he couldn't remember names.
He's also, as a nickname, he's called the Godfather by one player. You know who calls him that?
Ken Griffey Jr.?
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, yeah. I was getting confused, but yeah, I did know that.
So he's Barry Bonds' godfather. And Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame.
Barry Bonds and his dad were roommates or played together on the team.
Bobby Bonds.
Yeah. So yeah, I did remember that. So that was my number 4. What's your number 4?
My number 4, it played 12 seasons in Major League Baseball, including a minor league stint with the New Orleans Pelicans. He holds the record for the highest rookie batting average of all time.
Pelicans baseball, not basketball.
There you go. Batting 408 in 1910, before our time. He's also 4th all-time highest batting average in Major League Baseball history at 356. But as I said, he's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And you know why, because you know his name.
Yeah.
Because he was banned from baseball in 1919 for the Chicago White Sox scandal to fix the World Series. And of course, this is Joseph Jefferson Jackson, known as Shoeless Joe Jackson.
And it's funny because I saw a picture of him once, and he looks just like Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
Just like Ray
From
Liotta.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, well, yeah. Ray Liotta played him in Field of Dreams, but he doesn't look just like Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the main character know aside from Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams.
Field of
Shoeless
Dreams.
Joe Jackson.
And also is a movie, 8 Men Out,
Yes.
a great movie about the Chicago White Sox scandal. They call them the Chicago Black Sox for having another nickname there too, the Black Sox. So first of all, his nickname. One time he took off his shoes before an at bat because his cleats were hurting his feet, and a fan yelled, "You shoeless son of a gun!" And so he got the name Shoeless Joe Jackson.
from one time he had blisters, took off his shoes, and now he's forever known as Shoeless Joe, and immortalized in these 2 movies.
I think about it, like we don't hear the name, Joe Jackson, Joe Jackson. It's always Shoeless Joe Jackson when you hear his name mentioned. And it's about the scandal as well too. So it's a 1919 World Series against the Cincinnati Reds, where Jackson and 7 other White Sox players were accused of accepting $5,000 bribes to throw the World Series. But in that World Series, Jackson led both teams in batting average and had 12 base hits that were a record at the time.
And he was banned from baseball.
Yeah. And you've watched the movie 8 Men Out. It shows a lot of that. And also they say, once again, I don't want to talk bad with the guy. They said he was illiterate. So he didn't know what the contract was. He never signed his name, really. His wife signed his name on things. And along with that, so in October 2021, a signed photograph of Jackson sold for $1.47 million, making it the most expensive sports photograph of all time because it had his signature on it because he didn't sign a lot of things because he was illiterate.
Sure. So it wasn't his wife's signature. It's his mark.
Yeah,
as you would say.
So Shoeless Joe Jackson, my number 4, clever name.
Okay, so now we're moving on to number 3. And my number 3, a lot of people know. Inside, outside baseball, and that's Yogi Berra. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I won't go and tease it much. But Yogi Berra and Yogi Bear, similar. And most people think that's where he got the name from, is Yogi Bear. Yeah, there you go. Give you another chance. That's the only reason I picked Yogi Bear, so he could do as a Yogi impersonation. Yeah, and people really associate them together because they were both known for their amusing quotes, such as Yogi Bear saying, "Half the lies they tell about me aren't true." And so Yogi Berra and Yogi Bear kind of had the same personality. Of course, the name, so you would think that's where he got his name from. That's not where he got his name from, because Yogi Bear got his nickname in the minor leagues in the 40s. Yogi Bear didn't come around till 1958, where Hanna-Barbera introduced him to us. So Yogi Berra could not have been named after Yogi Bear. The story behind Yogi Berra is that he received his nickname from a friend who, after seeing a newsreel with about an Indian yogi, saw the way the Indian yogi was sitting, and Yogi Berra, I guess, used to sit that way in the dugout, with his legs crossed, and that. So he said, "You look like a yogi," and that's how he got his name, Yogi Berra.
Interesting. I did not know that.
And once Yogi Bear got rolling and got popular, Yogi Berra sued Hanna-Barbera for defamation. I guess from stealing picnic baskets. I don't know, but the management at Hanna-Barbera claimed that the similarity was just coincidence. I don't know if anything exchanged hands. I don't know if it actually went to court or anything like that, if there was a settlement. But I just know that Yogi Berra predated Yogi Bear, and he sued Hanna-Barbera.
I did not know that. I've been knowing Yogi Berra my whole life. I didn't know until today his real name is Lawrence Peter Berra.
Yeah.
I knew his nickname. There's a documentary about him on Netflix or one of those services that I need to watch, because he's known as one of the best ball players of all time. Won tons of World Series for the Yankees, and I never knew about the Yogi Berra thing. Like, I thought maybe it was named after the cartoon. I didn't know it until today.
I didn't know that either. I was picking him as one of my tops because he was named after Yogi Bear, but come to find out, Yogi Bear may have been named after him.
Interesting. Yeah, and he was known for his funny quotes or famous sayings. So I guess it makes sense to Yogi now, what you're saying.
So that's a Hall of Famer? Right?
Yes, Yogi Bear is a Hall of Famer.
So I'm doing pretty good.
Yep.
I got
your next one.
Hall of Famers. So next we're on to your number 3.
My number 3 is a Hall of Famer, and also probably one of the top 10 ball players of all time. Maybe if he had played longer, but he had an illness. I'm laughing, sorry, I should be laughing. So he's a 6-time World Series champ with the New York Yankees, 2-time MVP, despite playing with Babe Ruth. He's the first player to have his number retired from Major League Baseball.
Before Babe Ruth, well, he's a Yankee.
Well, and I'll get that story. I'll get the story now. So he was number 4 because he batted 4th in the batting order.
Okay.
And Babe Ruth was number 3, that was his number in the back of his jersey, because he batted 3rd. When they first gave out numbers for jerseys, like they go, what number are you going to be? This gave it to order they batted in. So it's crazy. So Babe Ruth is number 3. So he had the record for most consecutive games played at 2,130. That's consecutive games.
We didn't say the name yet. You're still teasing, right?
Yeah, I'm still teasing, I guess.
Okay.
It was surpassed by Cal Ripken Jr., and of course it was Heinrich Ludwig Gehrig, Lou Gehrig, whose nickname was the Iron Horse for his longevity. You know, even today, players don't play that. They take games off here and there. So he played 2,130 games in a row. He took himself out voluntarily because his performance started slipping in the field. He wasn't doing as well. Took himself out of the game, and the fans were surprised. The players were surprised. And he did it because he had ALS at the time.
Sure.
And he never played again. Took himself off the long streak. Never played again because he had ALS, which is commonly referred to as the Lou Gehrig disease nowadays.
And also with that, they had that famous moment of him on the microphone at Yankee Stadium, saying that he's the luckiest man on the face of the earth. So yeah, he's the Iron Horse. But what about the Iron Man, Cal Ripken, right?
Cal Ripken Jr., yes.
Yeah, Cal Ripken, yeah.
Cal Ripken Jr. beat the record. I remember that one too. That was more our lifetime. But like, even the story, like Wally Pipp was like a great first baseman for the Yankees, took himself out of the game, and then Lou Gehrig stepped in and never took a day off until his last day when he retired and gave it up and quit doing that.
Wow, sounds like when Drew Bledsoe had to take a break and Tom Brady ended up winning all them Super Bowls.
Exactly. Wally Pipp was not a bad player. So during the streak, in 1931, the sports writers, one of them called him the Iron Horse, and the name stuck. So since then, it's called the Iron Horse, and Lou Gehrig, a great ball player.
Number 3 for Andy.
Number 3.
The Iron Horse.
I should have put number 4.
What'd you say, Ludwig van Gehrig?
Well, his dad was an immigrant from Germany, and he spoke German his first few years of his life, Lou Gehrig. Heinrich Ludwig Gehrig. Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, I would go to Lou also.
Like I said earlier, I don't said it yet, but every player on my list does not go by their given name. Not even their nickname. Like, his name, we call him Lou Gehrig, but it was actually Heinrich Ludwig Gehrig. So interesting stuff.
So we're ready for my number 2?
Number 2.
My number 2. Well, according to this player, he got his nickname not because his arm was really loose or a slick arm. He got it because when he was younger in Mississippi, a woman supplied the town with moonshine, and at 7 he started drinking it. And one day, someone caught him and his friends hanging out in a tin shed drinking Big Mama's whiskey out of oil cans. So his friends started calling him Oil Can.
Oh.
That's Dennis Oil Can Boyd.
I never knew that story about him.
Yeah, and that's really all I wanted to say about him because it's just a cool story. I didn't know why it was oil can either. And so as I was doing my research, this put him up to number 2. Just that story, about drinking at 7 years old and getting busted and, drinking out of an oil can. And
he was a good player. I remember him growing up. Maybe I knew him because of his nickname.
That's the only reason why I really knew him also.
Oil Can Boyd, yeah, not in the Hall of Fame, but, a good player, great nickname.
So, anyway, that was my number 2, but let's go to yours.
My number 2, and you like probably. He's a likable character. He's from Mobile, Alabama.
Quite the athlete, too.
What's that?
He was quite the athlete, too.
Quite the athlete. He played shortstop from 1978 to 1996. He's known for his acrobatic shortstop moves, 13 consecutive gold gloves. He did backflips. He was named after a popular movie from 1939, The Wizard of Oz. And it's Ozzie Smith, the Wizard.
The Wizard. And that one actually goes with his name, not related to baseball, but no, he was a wizard. With his glove and his athleticism, he could do things nobody else could do.
So because, they're playing off his name because it's Ozzie Smith, so the Wizard of Oz. But also, like you said, he is a wizard. He could do magic things with his glove and his fielding. And his name, his birth name is Osborne Earl Smith. So Ozzie Smith. So yeah, in fact, but he played off this name as well, Wizard of Oz. In Baseball Hall of Fame speech, he compared his baseball experience with characters from the novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow.
And even on his plaque, the Baseball Hall of Fame, it says The Wizard. So not necessarily The Wizard of Oz, but it goes by just The Wizard. And he also still lives in St. Louis, and he'll make appearances at the St. Louis Municipal Opera Theater and play the role of the wizard in their production of The Wizard of Oz.
Well, the Wizard doesn't have a whole lot of lines.
That is true.
Yeah, so he, and I'm sure they go nuts.
Yeah,
when
I'm
they see
sure.
him.
Imagine that. You're watching an opera and Ozzie Smith comes out and does the wizard moves, whatever it is.
The wizard moves.
I guess he doesn't sing. He does an opera. I don't know if he does that.
I
He
don't
probably
know.
can.
Yeah, he can do anything. He's the wizard.
Yes, I know we got fans in St. Louis area. Ross and Rocher out there, so call in, let us know.
Call in.
So yeah, the Wizard of Oz, I think it's a good name. It plays off his name and also the moves he did in the field. So my number 2, Ozzie Smith. Number 1 for you now.
My number one's in honor of Andy being such a great Phillies fan. So my number 1 is you, losing pitcher Mulcahy.
Wait, it's your number 1 for the best ones.
Yeah, no, it's not my number 1, but I wanted to throw him in there somewhere because of his name and just take a shot at the Phillies. So I'm going to talk about him for a second, then I'll get to my real number 1.
Okay.
So yeah, with a nickname like losing pitcher, it's a wonder why he was even on a team. So in his 8 years on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, he never had a winning record. So obviously, you losing pitcher Mulcahy got his nickname because he lost a lot more than he won.
Ouch.
But the weird thing is that he was selected for the 1940 All-Star game.
Wow.
And
1940?
Yeah, 1940 All-Star, but he was a losing pitcher. So I mean, it may have been slim pickings that year, or maybe that's back when they took somebody off of every team, and the Phillies just didn't have any.
Well, and they do the All-Sar game in the midway of the season, so maybe
Sure.
he started off hot, then ended up losing.
Yeah. So, but anyway, actually, that's not my number 1, but I just thought it was a cool one, and I wanted to.
Well, let me just
take
say
a
this
shot
real
at the
quick.
Phillies.
Too. Like I'm a Phillies fan. My favorite athletic team is the Phillies, and they're the losingest sports franchise in American sports.
Oh wow.
Which is not, if you think about it, it's not hard to believe because it got to be a baseball team because
Yeah.
they play the most
So many
games and they've been around a long time. So
Yeah.
they just been around, one of the first teams to play baseball. So yes, they lost the most games.
Okay, so we'll get to my real number 1, and this is one of the names that pretty much everybody knows him by his nickname. I didn't even know his real first name. His real name is Denton Young,
Okay. I
but
don't know Denton Young.
he's known as Cy Young.
I've heard of him.
Heard of him? I mean, hell, the best pitching awards are named after him.
Exactly.
Because he was such an amazing pitcher. But Cy's not his nickname. Cy is a
What?
shortened form. Do you know what his nickname really is?
I do not know.
Yes, Cy stands for Cyclone. Because when he was first trying out for baseball, he was trying out for the Spiders. And this is his story, saying that he threw the ball so hard that he tore a couple of boards off the grandstand. And one of the fellows, watching over him when he was trying out, said, "Wow, it looks like a cyclone hit the grandstand because it went right through it." And so they shortened that to Cy eventually, and he became Cy Young.
All right.
And we don't have to get in his career because hell, he's one of the best players
Yeah.
ever. I mean, the award's named after
The
him.
word net to Cy Young, yes. So I'm learning a lot today from you. I did not know that Cy Young nickname. I didn't know his real name. I didn't know Cyclone was any part of it.
I thought Cy was his first name, honestly.
Yeah. Or short for Cyrus. Who knows?
So, but anyway, that was my number 1, my real number 1. What's your real number 1?
My number 1, I'll say his name now. I'm not gonna tease anymore. Reginald Martinez Jackson. Reggie Jackson, who's known as Mr. October. And the reason I put it number 1 is because October was always a time for the playoffs and the World Series. Like nowadays, they extend the playoffs longer, so World Series may go in November and it stretches out. But back, when he was playing, all the games were played in October pretty much. So he played 21 seasons in baseball, 14-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champ, 2-time World Series MVP. His numbers retired from the Athletics and the Yankees. He also saved the Queen in the movie Naked Gun.
Yes, I remember that. He got an award and all.
Yeah, actually, he didn't save the Queen. He was brainwashed to kill the Queen.
Yeah, he was walking over to her to shoot her, and then
Yeah, he was trying to
Frank
kill her.
Drebin or Enrico Palazzo
Yep.
saved the Queen.
Exactly. Yep. Check that out too. Naked Gun movie. So Reggie Jackson was nicknamed Mr. October for his clutch hitting in the postseason. He helped Oakland to 5 consecutive American League West championship titles, 3 straight World Series titles. He helped New York win 4 American League East titles, 3 American League pennants, back-to-back World Series. And in 1977 was the big year for him. In the World Series against the Dodgers, he hit 3 consecutive home runs,
Wow.
first pitch home runs in the decisive Game 6. So they won the game, they won the series, he had 3 home runs. And so one time they asked one of the great Yankee players, Thurman Munson, some questions, and he goes, "Go ask Mr. October over there." And so that's where I got the nickname from.
Yeah, because that's when he shined. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if he played better in October or not. I don't know the stats, but the bright lights are on you in Chicago, and in New York and in October.
Yeah.
So, Under the Bright Lights, he did his best.
Yeah, I remember growing up knowing about Reggie Jackson. Yeah, like he.
Yes, everybody did. Reggie Bar. Didn't they have a candy bar after him, too?
Reggie, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so.
And so, yes, you definitely know about Reggie Jackson. So, Mr. October, that's a cool name to have. If someone gives you a name that shows how great you are when it's supposed to be the time to shine, he shines. So, Reggie Jackson.
That was your number one.
My number one.
And before we go any further, as we promised at the beginning of the episode, we're going to do the world premiere of our new video song. And this is about baseball nicknames. You'll hear some of the ones we already said in this song, too. So here we go.
I go bat cracks loud like a thunderbolt. When the ball clears the wall, fans feel a jolt. Nicknamed legends on the diamond stage. Fans calling to them through the batter's cage. Big Poppy swing, gonna clear the green monster. The big hurt bats hard like a Chicago monster. Mad Dog Maddox, gonna paint the corners. The great slugger babe, gonna call his homers. Doc Sox on the mound, mowing batters down. Say hey, kid owns the sacred ground. Big units, speed can make a bird dead. Yogi's wisdom will make you scratch your head. Big Poppy swing, gonna clear the green monster. Big hurt hits hard like a Chicago mobster. Mad Dog Maddox, gonna paint the corners. Great slugger babe, gonna call his homers. Oil can will make sure the ball won't stick. Grandma Murphy's name was a mean trick. There are over 100 named Lefty, and the same for Red. The Ryan Express made batters poop the bed. Sandman closes with a calm, cold stare. Nuxie's pitch is going here and there. The man of steel's feet flying, making dirt spray. Wizard's glove makes magical plays.
So there it is. Lyrics.
Good job.
Lyrics and video editing by Lance the Professor Arnold. Picking us up a nickname there. So that's our song. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll have it up by itself on YouTube and other places.
Yeah, good job putting that together.
Thank you. It was fun. Okay, let's get to the worst.
These are the worst. These are the worst.
So here we go.
All right.
Yes, these
Let's go.
are our worst nicknames for baseball players. And I'll go again first. I like to let you, since baseball's your forte more than mine. I want you to have the last word on some
All
of these
right.
things. My worst is Pierce. What's the use? Chili's.
Whoa.
Yes, obviously there's one nobody else ever heard of. I never heard of
Pierce
him.
Chili's.
I never heard of him either. But while his nickname's not really a cool one, the story behind it is. So when batters would step up to the plate for the opposing team, Pierce Chili's would scream out, "What's the use? Like, what's the use? Why are you up there? You're going to get pitched. You're going to strike out." So that became his nickname. And he was really interesting because he managed to create a system to steal signs from the opposing catcher. And he was eventually arrested for a crime, escaped from jail, and disappeared forever. So that's his name. Pierce, what's the use? Chili's, my number 3.
I should have done more research on my worst ones because you have stories behind yours. Like I'll be real quick with mine because I don't have much stories, and the players I don't have much stories. So sorry, audience. But my third worst one is the Hebrew Hammer, which is basically given to every Jewish player out there. They give it most common is Ryan Braun and Hank Greenberg and Gabe Kapler. But yeah, it's a name they give to Jewish ball players. I guess not very clever, and Hebrew because they're Jewish, and Hammer because they hit the ball far.
MC Hammer, go Hammer, yo Hammer.
So that is my number 3.
Okay, my number 2 Actually, I have two for this, and
Whoa.
there's a reason for it. Any player named Lefty or Red. There's 153 lefties. In the song we just heard, I mentioned lefties and reds, but there are 153 lefties, and there are 120 reds. And mostly, and maybe all of them, they were called that either because they were left-handed or because they had red hair.
Yeah, I know Mark McGuire was called Big Red.
Yeah, Big
He
Red.
had red hair, and he was big.
He was big, and he carried a big stick.
Clever names.
Yeah, so anyway, that was my number 2. What's your number 2?
My number 2 also, there's several players with this name. Most commonly is Shane Victorino, played for the Phillies on the World Series team. Because he was born in Hawaii, so they cleverly called him the Flying Hawaiian. You know, so other players have that name, but yeah, and I don't know why. It's not bad. I don't dislike it.
It's just not original if they have that many players with it. That's why I chose my red and lefty, because it's just not original.
Yeah, I guess he did run fast, so like I probably would change this list if I made it today. But Shane Victorino, the Flying Hawaiian. I always thought it was funny when they say it every time he went to bat. So yes, sorry, it's my bottom 2.
And simply because flying and Hawaiian rhyme.
They closely rhyme. Yes.
Yeah, so that's why they got that one. Well, my number one is Infamous.
Yes.
He goes, and actually, I think his nicknames are pretty appropriate for who he is and the things that he did. His nicknames are Rockhead and Captain Redneck, which would both tell you that, would kind of allude that he's not very intelligent, and some other attributes. And he had these attributes, and he lived up to these nicknames because his name was John Rocker, who played for the Atlanta Braves and several other teams, which I'll tell you the teams in a second. But I want to tell you about this dude.
Yes.
Because this dude got in a lot of trouble, a lot of controversy. He issued an apology once, which was obviously written by somebody else. But in December 27th of 1999, an issue of Sports Illustrated, he was asked about if he would ever play in New York. Of course he'd play, when he's on the other team. But if he ever, the Mets or Yankees ever went after him. And he said, and these are quotes from the article right now, "I'd retire first. It's the most hectic, nerve-wracking city. Imagine having to take the 7 train to the ballpark looking like you're riding through Beirut, next to some kid with purple hair, next to some queer with AIDS, right next to some dude who just got out of jail for the 4th time, right next to some 20-year-old mom with 4 kids. It's depressing. The biggest thing I don't like about New York are the foreigners."
Likable character, this John Rocker.
It goes on. "You can walk an entire block in Times Square and not hear anybody speaking English. Asians, Koreans, and Vietnamese, and Indians, and Russians, and Spanish. People and everything up there. How the hell did they get in this country?" So that's John Rocker. So he played with the Atlanta Braves mostly, which, is good. I'm glad he played for the Atlanta Braves because I hate everything Atlanta, as I explained earlier. But he also played for the Cleveland Indians, the Texas Rangers, Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
2 teams that no longer have those names anymore.
Yeah, and the dude had talent.
Yep.
But God, he was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I'd rather be illiterate than a racist.
Yeah, I remember hating him for a lot of reasons in the, the 80s or 90s, wherever it was.
Yeah, so that was my worst human being, but appropriate nickname.
Yeah, my bottom one is not a bad human being and definitely not a bad ball player. And I didn't even know he had a nickname until I Googled this stuff, doing research.
So now it's time to hear from our super fans who we love to hear what they have to say and their ideas. And it's usually things that we would have said did just make our list, or sometimes it's something I didn't even think of. So let's hear from our super fans.
The best and worst picks from our super fans. The best and worst picks from our super fans.
All right, so today Andy's going to take over because you only mentioned things on his page for some reason. So you're in charge of the super fans from here on out because they seem to like you better.
Well, I'll say that we didn't get much love this time. I guess baseball nicknames isn't as cool as music and sports. But the ones that gave some good ones that gave us a lot. Thomas Cowett, he chose 2 that I chose, Wizard of Oz and Mr. October, and also Charlie Hustle for Pete Rose. That's one I kind of negotiated with doing that one. I don't know if I like it or don't like it. It makes sense, but Charlie Hustle's kind of cheap. Let's see. Mike Holtard gave us a bunch out there. A lot for Babe Ruth. We didn't put any Babe Ruth stuff there. Big Papi, Big Hurt, a lot of big ones, Big Train. He put Crime Dog.
I wanted to. I mean, I actually thought about putting Babe Ruth on mine, but
You did. I thought you put in that. But he put a few of ours that were good, like Yogi, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Say Hey Kids. So he had a lot of the ones we put on there. Carl Arredondo also put Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose. I like Pete Rose. Charlie Hustle. I got to think about Kyle Carrier, another former student of ours. Big Hurt, The Kid, The Babe, Big Poppy, Big Unit. That's one I almost went with.
Wait,
Oil
the kid,
Can.
the kid, that's Prince. Dang.
Yeah, I know. Ken Griffey Jr., The Kid, Say Hey Kid, El Duque, Sandman, Hammer and Hank. Good options. Leo DeRocher, Chipper for Chipper Jones. Yeah, that's probably a good one we could do. Mr. October, Iron Man, Joey Bats, A-Rod, Captain Clutch. Some good options there.
And then there's one that I need to mention that they put it on our show page, and this is one of our super fans, and I understand they're having a watch party tomorrow if I get this edited in time.
What?
Yes, a few of them said they're going to get together and watch our podcast.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, we're big in Talbot Hall.
Let's do it over. I want to do this again.
But anyway, this is our super fan, Connor Gisclair, who said, ooh, I hope I get a shout out. So here's your shout out, Connor Gisclair, because his favorite was Sandman, Mariano Rivera. Which is a really cool name, and it's really, I think, because he came out to enter Sandman.
And that's a really good one, too. I mean, he's probably the best reliever of all time.
And that song just kicks ass to come out to. You know, it's just so thumping and builds up. So that's an awesome one. And he gave us a least favorite, which people usually don't do. His least favorite was Corey's brother for Kyle Seager.
Oh, all right.
I guess because he has a brother played too. So that's Corey's brother.
That's a bad nickname to have. Yes.
Yeah. So to be defined by your brother. But that's it for our super fans.
Thanks, fans.
Thank you. Please keep it up. And as usual, now we'll announce our next topics in the next few days. And please, comment on our pages.
Yeah, and
our pages.
Comment on the main page. Like you could look at the stuff on mine, but then go to the main page and comment on it.
Thank you, because I wrote the one on the main page. And,
you did a great job.
And I'm feeling a little neglected over here. But anyway, that's it for our show today.
Next week we'll get them.
That's it for this week. The top and bottom list by Lance and Andy. Full episodes here on Spotify. Thank you, like and subscribe. Please check out our website